everyone, and welcome to Beauty in the Biz, where we talk about the business and marketing side of plastic surgery. I'm your host, Catherine Maley, author of Your Aesthetic Practice, What Your Patients Are Saying, as well as consultant to plastic surgeons to get them more patients and more profits. So my guest today is Dr. Gary Linkov. Now, he's a facial plastic and hair surgeon in private practice on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, on Madison Avenue, no less, for the past 3 years. Talk about having guts to start there, huh? So he's a native New Yorker.
Yeah.
And he graduated from Cornell University with a focus on psychology, which I think is brilliant. I think it's very necessary in today's world.
Yeah.
He then pursued advanced art training in painting, sketching, and sculpture in Florence, Italy. I haven't been to Florence, but I have been to Rome, and it was absolutely lovely. He then received his medical degree at Columbia University. He conducted advanced head and neck cancer research at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, and he's devoted time to Smile Train to help children with cleft lips and palates. Now, he specializes in all types of facial plastic as well as hair restoration surgery, as well as all the non-surgical as well for both men and women. So welcome to Beauty in the Biz, Dr. Linkov. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thanks, Catherine. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So the big question is, how in the world did you graduate? How did you end up in New York? And how did you decide, oh, why don't I just open up a practice right in the middle of the jungle, the mecca of plastic surgery? How did you do that? Because that's a big deal.
So what happened was this. I thought about it this way. Like, as a resident and a fellow, we don't make that much money. And so instead of kind of being lured by this big potential, salary working for a private practice or, even for a hospital or an academic type of place, I was like, let me just try this on my own. And, if I could make at least what I was making as a resident or fellow, like I'll consider that, a success. And so, like, on one hand, I didn't really know fully what I was getting myself into. I think if you completely understand in advance, you probably wouldn't do it because the barrier to entry is quite high. And I didn't know how much money it was going to take to like compete on the marketing front. And that's where, your expertise come in. But, I just had to learn all that from scratch. So it was like, and I didn't have much money. I didn't take out, honestly, any loans. I mean, we just had some in the savings. I just kind of put that in. One of the big things I had going for me is that my uncle, who's a chiropractor, decided to open up like a wellness space in the city. Not for me, but he was just planning on that along the way for years. And then just the timing kind of worked out. It was sort of a weird, kind of fortune that came my way. And so like, at least I had some space where I could work out the finances with him, his family. So it was a little bit easier. Cause I remember before he finally decided to do it and rent, a nice space, renovate it. And then I was in charge of building our operating room. So we have a accredited OR that I had to get accredited from scratch. I mean, we had an advisor, but still I didn't know what I was doing, what equipment to buy. I mean, usually I'd walk into an OR and, they give you everything you ask for. So here I was trying to do that from scratch. So as I was building my practice and trying to, have a part-time job to pay the bills. So it was interesting beginnings, not easy. But before he finally decided to do it, I met with some other plastic surgeons in the area to try to rent space from them. And the costs were it was just insane what they were, and they didn't care that I was just starting out. No one cared. It was like, this is the price, take it or leave it. So I got insane quotes. I mean, up to like $10,000 for one room for 2 days a week, a month. I was like, I don't know how I would afford that, without a massive loan or something like that. So luckily, that part of it was a little easier for me compared to, say, someone else out of training looking to build in Manhattan. Now it's actually not a terrible time because, rentals are down. And so you can kind of get into a space for cheaper with the pandemic. But, 3 years ago, that wasn't the case.
So just so I'm clear, did you open up a practice with your uncle chiropractic?
No. He built out like this imagine like almost like a WeWork in a way, but most of it is for his kind of wellness practice with a partner of his who does like anti-aging, and she's a nurse practitioner, IV therapies, and he, continues doing his like chiropractic stuff. He has a big practice in Brooklyn, and this was kind of his boutique sort of cash-based focused practice in the city. So, but the point was just it was a physical space with like many different rooms, and they were planning on renting out the rooms to other providers. It wasn't just kind of for them and for me. So I just like nestled in there, got my one exam room that I continue to use. And then I was in charge of the operating room. So I'm still its medical director. We now have other surgeons who come and use the OR, but I had to figure that part out also from ground up, which was very hard. I mean, I remember going through that accreditation process, but before that, like just buying up even like the smallest things. I mean, I literally like did all of it. They didn't have like an OR manager. Or I just did everything, in the beginning. And then we, hired someone to kind of do inventory and all of that. But it was just the fact that there was this like physical space where I could go in, not pay, as much as some other places were quoting me. Plus have the option of using an OR that's like ours, and not relying on someone else's for availability. All those things were a huge help, and something I don't talk about too often just because no one asks. I mean, I have nothing to hide. It was definitely a nice little boost for me. But that helped. And that gave me, of course, some courage and confidence to kind of keep going. I wasn't like eating through the funds, just paying for like space, like
so you share the space because the pictures on your website are gorgeous. The office is gorgeous. So
that's the space.
It's gorgeous. Okay.
But it's not just for me, it's like a shared kind of thing.
It's shared as in, is there any way your patients cross over to theirs or theirs cross over?
That was actually the logic behind it. And the funny thing is I have a good friend in town who has a laser company, and he's actually looking to build out something like what we have, but also renting out his machines because that's what he has. But the concept would be the same. And so he just recently met with my uncle to talk about, the experience, because we don't just have surgeons in our space. We have like a neurologist, we have like a GI specialist, but it's generally people who are more kind of cash based. And so sometimes patients will cross over, but that's actually not that common. It was the vision initially, but people come to me for specific surgeries, and unless they mention like, oh, I'm really looking for someone to fix my shoulder or something like that, I mean, I'm not going to just advertise everyone in our space. I mean, sometimes they'll see like, oh, there's this person here because they'll see, their name on the sign or whatever it is. But yeah, so there's some crossover, but not as much as I think they were hoping for.
So who was your first hire?
My first hire, so I had a lot of part-time help for a long time. And then it was actually only like right after COVID that I was like, all right, I need someone who's like my person because my volume was increasing. And so I have an amazing assistant, and I literally only have one employee right now. Everyone else is, because it's Manhattan. So like tech work it's easy to find people. That's not a problem. And so I have like the same 4 or 5 people who assist me for cases. And when I'm in the operating room, we've got the same 4 or 5 nurses that come through and do those cases with me. So, I mean, at this point, I don't feel like I need to have any more full-time people, though I'm moving in the direction of getting another part-time person for maybe some social media and some weekend coverage. I used to work the weekends, at least Sundays, but now I don't do weekends too often, but we still get a good number of inquiries. So I just want someone fielding them so they don't get all dumped on Monday, and so people can get, patients can get their replies sooner. Also, I want to have someone who's like able to jump in if my main like person can't make it in, so she had like a dental appointment recently. So I just need some backup help. So someone who's cross-trained. So that's what we're working on, identifying that person now. We thought we found someone, but it wasn't a good fit. So we have another person coming in for some training next week. So that's that person. And then I am talking to one of my hair tech nurses. So she's a nurse who is also one of my hair techs. I don't want to lose her to another practice, and she's starting to want something a little bit more regular. She was part of a big practice, and then with COVID got laid off. So I'm talking to her about at least kind of giving her some part-time, but regular part-time work. Yeah, so slowly building, but staying lean. I think the biggest thing when you're counting your money and not being just kind of all over the place and having such a big loan that you don't really count your dollars as closely as you should, I think you need to be lean, and there's no reason to just bring on people who are going to sit around and not perform and like help you build. So that's been my strategy.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you wanted my 2 cents, there, of course, you need the help with marketing, but also with lead gen in general. Somebody has to have their name on that. When the leads come in, either by chatbot, by call, by email, by DM, somebody has to be on top of that pronto. Do you have that covered? Because social media is one thing, but lead gen is the other, and the process of how are you going to get that to convert all the way through to the end where they actually have surgery. Do you have that person on board?
Yeah, so that my front desk, I mean, is that like person, so she does all of that. She's really good. So I got lucky in that sense. So yeah, we're on those, we have a very advanced like patient tracking system. Yeah, we don't let anything kind of slip by in terms of inquiries, and we're fast. I mean, we reply very fast. I mean, I'm on top of emails myself. Like I don't actually like send the emails initially, but like if I notice something, I'll make sure she replies right. That's why I need that weekend coverage, because even though online we're closed on Saturday and Sunday, people don't care. They call, they send inquiries, they want to know the price, they want whatever, they want to schedule their consults. So I don't like that delay from like Friday at like 6 7 p.m. when we stop picking up the phone. Unless it's like my own post-op patient, but they usually have my cell phone, so they rarely. But again, I'll keep my eye out, if there's any like real medical thing. But in terms of like new, inquiries, they usually will have to wait until Monday when my person Bianca can respond to them. But sometimes I don't think, honestly, for the type of patient that I'm looking for, because I'm as picky as patients are in finding me, I'm kind of picky in the patients that I pick. For surgery, especially injectables, maybe. I really like, with the psych background, I have my antenna up for BDD all the time, and I really don't want to take people on into the practice who I don't feel like I can make them happier. So if they're miserable people, I don't want them. I mean, maybe that sounds harsh, and I don't tell them that, but it's the truth, because it's not good for the practice. It's not good for them. It's just not right all around. So yeah, so I think it's okay to, like, most of those patients aren't going to just go shop. It's not like a haircut. They're not going to just go somewhere else and be like, oh, this person gave me a good price quicker than you did, so that's who I'm going to go with. So I don't think we've really lost anybody with that weekend delay. But I do think that it's helpful to have someone who's a little bit more just there on the weekend to respond, remotely. And plus, I do come in on the weekend sometimes to operate, and I want a person who will come in with me and not just kind of be alone with my, surgical help. I want like someone at the front desk. So again, having that person be cross-trained to just jump in whenever someone's needed, I think is going to be critical for me.
I don't even know what the answer is anymore, because you sound very rational, and you sound like you have very rational patients or prospective patients, but you're still dealing with the public, and they're emotional. They want what they want. They want it when they want it. New Yorkers are tough group anyway. But you go outward, all over the world probably. But what I would suggest, though, because your competitors are answering the phone. I mean, a lot of them have a practice cell phone, and it's going home with the staff, but then you have to figure that out. How are you going to monitor it? How are you going to pay them to be on call like that? So that's a whole other issue.
During the week, we're fine. I mean, we're answering all the time. If it's after hours, there are patients who call in at midnight with like a basic question about a procedure that they're interested in. No, like that's not being answered. I mean, I personally think that's a little bit a strange behavior. You got to understand if you're in the patient's shoes. I mean, who do you think you're going to talk to at midnight when you have this like very elective, basic, general question? It just doesn't make sense. You're not going to get someone of value because they're sleeping. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe I don't feel like desperate for patients, luckily. And even when I was starting, I kind of started with the same mentality. So I think now maybe I'm a little bit more discriminating because I can be, but even in the beginning, I let surgeries go. I let, different things kind of go. And I stood my ground with patients who I felt were being unreasonable. And honestly, I wouldn't say it backfired. I mean, yeah, I gave some money back here and there, for people who were really just out there, and there was no way to reason in any logical way. But I don't know. I think patients find you who are kind of maybe like because I have enough material out there now, and my YouTube stuff is growing, and people kind of like who reach out and who are willing to. I think the key is to charge for a consultation. I mean, that's been my experience, because when I didn't charge, the quality of the patient and the willingness and the dutifulness to show up for your consultation was just not there. And I don't work that way. I mean, I show up and I expect the patient to show up. When we started to charge, they all show up. I mean, maybe 2% of the time they don't. So yeah. So I mean, I think like you attract the type of person who kind of likes your style. Maybe back in the day when there wasn't as much like being out there like online with like videos everywhere and all this stuff, you would just get referred to someone word of mouth, and then you show up and you kind of figure out their personality, and maybe you like them, maybe you didn't, but you kind of find that out later on. Nowadays it's a little different. Like, a lot of us are just kind of, you're out there. I mean, I'm the same person when people reach out and want a consultation, and so they kind of know what they're getting, and that's what I like. So someone who isn't willing to wait, 12 hours for us to call them back, or reached out on the weekend when, so I have two different ways so I agree with you in that it's good to just pick up and answer them and be available. But I also think that there's something to be said for, running things your way, and, expecting patients to adapt a little bit to some, you
Well,
want to see that
I
from
say it all the time. You teach people how to treat you. I think actually Bill McGraw said that or something, but the public will run you ragged if you let them. So I love that you have boundaries around that. I'm just saying, when you're new and you're still feeling it out, and you have competitors in the jungle there who are willing to do it, it's just such a trade-off. Everything's such a trade-off. Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? You're tracking like crazy. So I think your numbers well, and your numbers will tell you everything. If your numbers are hurting, maybe it's time to cater more. If not, do it your way, might as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, we really aren't like missing anyone. There might be a little bit more of a delay on returning those weekend calls, but we're never missing anyone, because nowadays everything's also so. I mean, I use Vonage, so it's all through the phone. I mean, I get it, my assistant gets it. It's all like, if someone leaves a voicemail, like it all comes through our email. Like, there's so many ways to go back and say, okay, did we miss any calls? Did we not? So we have Bird Eye. So a lot of people love to just text these days. So they're texting us through Bird Eye. So everything is recorded, documented. It's, I mean, I think gone are the days where, you just miss the call. Like, you miss the call and you can't easily go back and check who it was, and it's no caller ID. I don't know, we don't experience that.
Yeah. I would, just one recommendation, I would actually set up some contingency plans, such as autoresponders, where, we'll be getting back to you on Monday. In the meantime, do this, go to my YouTube channel, go to my podcast.
Have that on the Bird Eye. There's an auto thing for the text, and the calls. I have to check what the voicemail says recently. I mean, I don't remember. I mean, we had something like that. Hopefully I haven't looked into that in a little while, but yeah, I mean, it's, I think that's a great point. And I think, we're doing okay in that department at least. And the conversion rate from, doing the consultate, or I should say to booking surgery, from consultation to booking surgery, is also much higher in my experience from when I started to charge for consultations compared to when we didn't. Because people, they're serious.
You have to charge in today's world. You just have to. It's just not even worth it anymore trying to cater to anybody who wants to come see you. I think you need to put up some boundaries. I think, anyway, good for you.
I have a friend in town, just to play devil's advocate, because that's how I feel personally. And I think for my style, where like I like to spend time with patients, like my video consults nowadays, I've gotten them down to 30 minutes, but they were like 1 hour for a long time. And part of that was me, and part of it was just how we structured things. But I have a buddy, not to put out any names, but he does 700 rhinoplasties a year. He's very active on a certain website online and just gets a ton of patients from all over the place. He's about 6 years my senior, but he does not charge for consultations. He does 8-minute consultations. So like he'll do consults on a Saturday. I think he puts like 35 or 40 consultations on. Free, 8 minutes is all the time you get with him, and then take it or leave it. And they send the price of the surgery to the patients in advance to force them to review it, to be like, okay, if this is too expensive for you, then don't do the consult. And so he said that he likes, and this is all like a new COVID thing, but he likes this method so much that he said that he's going to probably offer this, or you pay him $500 for an in-person visit that does not go towards your surgery. Mm-hmm. So, a lot of people would choose that. But 8-minute I can't do that. 8 minutes, I'm just like saying hello, like seeing where they're located, like, just I don't know. I don't think you can fully understand a person's true like goals and aspirations, and then give them your thoughts, talk about the procedure in 8 minutes. No, that's how I feel. But he's able to somehow do it.
Well, we'll see though, because that's exhausting what he's doing, and we'll see. Where it comes out in the reviews and the referrals, and the people referring, all of that. I don't know, but 8 minutes. Wow. I don't know how he does it. And
I think once your machine is so big, it seems like it's hard to fail. Like from what I've seen, like even if you get all these terrible reviews and whatever, but if you're kind of out there and people talk about you, consider you, top person, that's the notion I get. And I think it's unfortunate because I think every case is important. I think every person that you treat, it's like you got to not see it as your last, but see it as like your most important. I don't put any more, I don't care if it's an influencer or just a person anyone, I don't care. Like every single person who I treat, gets my like utmost attention and concentration and focus. And, that's how I run my practice. But some people they play it like a volume game, like, and that same person who I mentioned, he's fine giving money back. Like he's more than happy to do that. If it means just getting rid of the person and, whatever. So different ways maybe to do things.
I've seen every which way you can do this. And you know what? The answer is do what feels right to you, because you're the one who's going to lose sleep over it if you don't do what you're
totally.
So just do your own thing. There is no one way to do this, but, and there's also, because you are working with consumers, there are consumers for everybody. Some of them could care less. They just want a good deal. Some want you to, handhold them. You just don't know. So you'll attract who you are. So
that's exactly what I was getting at. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, you said it best. I agree. I agree. So like, I know I'm not the right person for everyone, even just personality wise, because some people like to be told like, this is what you need. This is what we're doing. Don't worry about the risks. There's no risk. It's just you're going to come out looking beautiful. I can't do it. I can't do it. I think people deserve to know what could go wrong. They deserve to know alternatives. And I think it is a conversation. It's not just a one-way street. So I don't know. My approach is maybe different than some. But I feel, like you said, I feel good at night. I can sleep. I can know that I know I'm treating people the way I'd want my family to be treated and myself. And so that's all I can do.
For sure. And that might change as you grow, because you're 3 years in, maybe 13 years in, you feel differently, or you just move with your moods,
You're right. Who knows? I don't know what will happen in 10 years.
Just give me one business mistake that you made that would help others not make, or they probably made them too, but like, what's something that you just wish you hadn't even bothered with?
I've been so careful with like how I've spent my money that I only pulled the trigger on bigger things when I really felt like the time was right. So it's hard to think of any, there's always like small things like, you put a little money into PR with this one company and that didn't really work out. Honestly, I probably would say that I wish I found my SEO company, because right now most of my business, even though yeah, there's like the social stuff and all, but most of it is coming through organic Google.
Mm.
And I do think people cross-reference multiple things and whatever, but still we we have good positions on organic Google, and that's huge. Um, so I think I should have probably gone with the more expensive company sooner,
Mm.
but it's easier said in hindsight. I didn't really have the capital. Uh, but yeah, so that is one thing. I'm trying to think of something else. Uh, of course, there's always like little things you purchase, like instruments that you're like, oh, I'm not going to use that. Oh, I purchased chemical peels initially through PCA. It was like
Okay.
$1,500, but at that time it felt like a big expense, and it was like a big decision. Which peels do I get? I literally used it one time, and then just I gave it away to a colleague who's like an esthetician. It just wasn't really where my expertise was. And so thinking that you would just start to do this and that, and people would be coming to me for their skincare like it was just silly, in Manhattan to try to do it all. So I think I mean, this is a little different, but in competitive markets, you really have to go for like a niche thing.
If I were consulting you, I would have said, don't bother, because that's not, stay in your own lane. You could care less about peels. It's
That's
not
true. I
anything
really have no passion for
yeah,
peels.
yeah, yeah.
So that was maybe like a business mistake. But again, I mean, if you
It's a
you put
little
your
one though. Try making the bigger ones. Like, did you buy
no,
any lasers? And you're doing hair
no,
restoration.
no, I didn't fall into that trap. I have purchased a laser, but only when I felt like I could afford it, and through like a friend of mine who deals with a lot of refurbished lasers. So I got a really good laser that he found that he was going to sell to someone else, but then since we were working together on this jet peel stuff that I do, he just basically gave it to me for cost. I have a really good CO2, and like I'm done. Like he's talking, they're looking into marketing like a radio frequency microneedling device.
Mhm.
So I might work with them on that just because I'd get it for free, but whatever. But I wouldn't purchase that. I send people out for that, but I always wanted to have my own CO2. I just couldn't afford a nice one, and I didn't really want to spend on like some junky one. So now I have a nice CO2. I don't use it that much, but I use it from time to time for scars, for some resurfacing with surgery, and I'm very happy with it. It's a compact thing, so it fits into my small room in the city. It's Acupulse from Luminous, and it's fantastic. It's got everything I wanted. So, but I worked up to that. I didn't like start my practice and say, oh, I need the CO2 and go and take out a loan or pay the company big bucks for a brand new one. And so that was kind of my strategy. So yeah, I never really had any like major like purchases or huge expenses. It's been very calculated. I spent on PR when people were telling me not to do PR, and they didn't really do a whole lot for me with like the magazine stuff. Like, yeah, I got some mentions, but with their help, I had another connection, but they helped a lot. I got on the Dr. Oz show, and that's continued to reap rewards. I mean, that's not like a one-time thing. That's like, a big deal. I mean, so especially 2 years into my practice. So that helped a lot. And so even though I don't work with that company anymore, I do feel like it was worth it, even though it was like, $30,000. And it's like, well, it's one, televised thing, but and a
Were
couple
you
of
able to keep the B-roll? I didn't see it on your website, because that's the only thing about Dr. Oz. If I'm not mistaken, they will not let you put that video on your own website.
Oh, no, no, yeah, we purchased it through their company. Yeah, no, we have the
Once you quit paying, they don't let you do it? Is it an ongoing payment?
no, no, it was a one-time thing. It
Okay.
wasn't a lot of money. It was like $100 or yeah. Yeah, no, there's like an official clip of it, and there's no issue with putting it on the website. So yeah, no, we have a thing on my new website just went up recently, like a month ago. It's totally redesigned, mainly for speed, but also for aesthetics. Yeah, if you scroll down the homepage, you'll see there's like me and Oz, and then you have to click on it to see a video pop up. Uh,
That's what the problem is. You know what? I don't, like I did look at your website and it had PR, but it didn't give me the photos until I clicked on it. Then I saw the visuals. I would just say, get the visuals. I know you're probably doing that for site speed, but
Yeah.
it's so much easier to click on a visual, than a words that say, I'm going to go get a visual. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. There is like in the middle of my homepage now. There's the visual and there's a circular play button, so you just click it. But yeah, for speed, Google is coming out with an update in early May, and speed is going to be ranked very high for for how they do their algorithm now. So we felt that it was prudent to redesign which took a lot of time, 3 months. So we have like a custom WordPress where we got rid of all these plugins that were slowing us down. And one way to do that is to consolidate a lot of stuff on the homepage and not have like videos that have to load slowly. So yeah, there's a lot of strategy because at the end of the day, those Google SEO positions are much more important than having the prettiest website in the world. I mean, because you have to get people there. So.
But then you have to get them there, and then they have to get to know you. And I don't know. I mean, before and after photos and video testimonials and videos like meet the doctor videos, like educational videos from you. We just love all that stuff. So maybe the point is put it somewhere else, but then have all arrows point to your website.
Yeah. I mean, we have our website's like 200 pages of stuff. I mean, we've got lots of stuff on there. So yeah.
All right, so let's talk about marketing. I notice you are, what's the word? I don't know if you have copywritten it, but like these procedures you're doing, like I lift, jet.
Yeah, they're trademarks.
Jet lift.
Yeah, Ella Lift is trademarked already. Jet Lift is in the process. It's under review. I saw some other people doing it and I figured I'll do it too. I mean, that's the truth, right? Like it's all kind of a little silly. I mean, yeah, I've developed my own. I just published a lip lift paper on my technique. So there's nothing secretive about it. I want, other surgeons to have access to know what it is and just, my version of doing it. It's not like the right way, but it's a way that is effective. But yeah, I put a name on it. I saw, I won't say who, but I saw Kyle. I mean, a lot of people do this stuff, as you know, but I saw
it's your signature treatment.
Yeah, because what happens is, I mean, in a way, it's maybe fooling patients to some degree, but then when they ask me about it, I tell them the truth. I'm like, that's just the name I gave it. It's just my technique. Other people have good techniques. It's my technique. But people they hear about it, they see a picture, and then you write what your technique is, and then they're like searching. They're like, oh, I want to learn more about this technique, but then like you're the only one really kind of doing it. So then all the arrows point to you, right? So that's helpful. And so yeah, so that's why I did it, I guess. And it's good.
It's great.
Trademarking is not hard.
Right? But if you can say, and he trains other surgeons to do this signature treatment, it's all good branding. It is. Yeah. And you're educating the patients. They see what they're getting. It doesn't matter what the name is, but it matters to them that you created it and you train others. So I would use that.
Totally. Thank you.
So regarding the, here's the thing about marketing. I struggle when you have two very different segments. So you have the old, like let's say the more mature patient who likes facial rejuvenation, but then you have the hair restoration practice that's completely a different demographic. They're so diverse that you have to have marketing plans that are completely different for that group versus that group. So how are you handling that?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Like some people, they'll make a whole new website, right, even for the search engine stuff, so that because it is hard to grow a site that is like complicated and has lots of different facets. We're managing to do it like pretty well. I mean, our overall flow to the website in general, when compared to similar websites to mine, is really, really good. For certain things, we're definitely not ranking where I want us to rank, but we're climbing in all of the important procedures that I care about, which is great. And for certain ones, we're kind of first page, and type of thing. So how, I mean, mainly the SEO company, but and then aside from that, when you just look at it as like, well, what if people ask me, well, what do you really do? Are you doing more hair? Are you doing, you know, I try to show them that it's not all that different. You know, yes, the technicians are different. The people I work with, yeah, of course, they need to have special kind of skill sets. I took a deep dive into hair. For me, it's not like I bought a NeoGraft and I'm like, let me get technicians and then, you know, do this stuff on the side to make some more money. Like I joined Jeff Epstein's practice out of
Oh,
Miami, but I was his remote New York arm. I trained with him. I was like living in his guest house. You know,
he's
I was part
a
of,
mentor, huh?
yeah. So he, you know, okay, so I had a part-time job. I had the OR that I was bringing up from the beginning. I had my practice that I was trying to build. I had the part-time gig with Jeff Epstein where like I was trying to figure out hair and how to do it and how to do it right and grow that. So yeah, there's a lot going on a few years ago. Now things are again starting to come together a little more streamlined. I've since parted ways with Jeff. I mean, we're good friends, but it's just for my practice, I needed to kind of just take it under, you know, and he wasn't planning on coming to New York very much anymore, so it just didn't make a lot of sense. So I kind of had to do that, but that gave me, you know, what I needed to kind of get things off the ground. And so I do a lot of things with hair that like lots of other people, not just in New York but elsewhere, like just don't do, like beard hair transplants, body hair transplants, eyebrow, pubic hair. You know, using some of the really kind of fine devices that like take a lot of experience. Like I can do it myself. I have technicians to assist me, but they're actually assisting, they're not doing it. And so just that in and of itself allows me to stand out as a hair transplant surgeon compared to someone who's just offering hair transplants, doesn't know a thing about it, and just takes in technicians who do the whole thing. And maybe they took a weekend course, maybe Jeff's course. It's not the same as when you've spent, you know, a long time with someone training, being there, watching them, doing cases with them, supervising, you know, getting your hands dirty with cases, like seeing things go wrong, seeing, you know, lots of different scenarios. And so that's kind of how I'm approaching hair. But, you know, like let's say I'm doing an eyebrow hair transplant, you know, to do a bleph on that upper bleph on that same patient, it's like, it's all right there. Or if I like, I'll have a patient who, you know, comes to find like they have a facelift somewhere else. Now they have scarring and they're not happy with it and they want hair there. Like I understand that scar. I understand sometimes what a scar revision can accomplish versus a hair transplant. You know, if someone's got scar on their face, a guy, let's say, if it's in a beard, a hair bearing region, I can put hair there. It's not like let's cut out the scar and resuture it if it's too big. You know, sometimes that's not a possibility. So I see it as an advantage, as like almost like a huge supplement to a facial plastic surgeon's armamentarium. I don't see it as this whole separate thing that, like, I agree when I do pubic hair transplant, it's a little bit like weird and different, but again, I'm just using those hair skills and just putting it in a place where someone, for whatever reason, wants more hair. I've done underarm, like armpit transfer for people. So, you know, people have different reasons. There are different situations that come up. And so, yeah, so I think hair in the more kind of standard sense, when we're transferring it to the face or to the scalp, you know, because I do hairline lowering surgery, also thanks to Jeff and teaching me that. And that's like a whole incision under the scalp, pulling the scalp down. You know, you can combine that with a brow lift. I mean, it's very integrated. It's not so separate. So I guess what I try to do is to show people that it's kind of one impacting the other.
Well, I guess you would do the P&L on that and just decide, because you also have to count in the marketing costs of finding those kind of patients versus the other kind of patient. I do struggle with that sometimes because the cosmetic world, it's still realistically, it's still 85% women. And they're just easier. Women talk to each other. They'll grow your practice for you organically much quicker than a man will. So I just try to go with the path of least resistance, but it's working for you. But now let's talk about hair
I
for a
have
second.
women, sorry to interrupt. I have women who have come to me for different types of, you know, facial plastics work, and they've referred sons, their brothers, their husbands when they realize that I do hair.
Mhm.
It's great.
Yep.
So it's fine. I mean, yeah, it's very rare that someone really pushes me and is like, oh, well, how can you do this and this well if like there are people who only do this? But, I try to just tell them the truth, my background. And if they really want someone who only does hair 100% of the time, that's fine. But I think I bring something extra to the table compared to those people. And, and that's what it is. So, and I enjoy it. So my split now is probably like 60-40 facial plastics to hair, but I hope to try to maintain a 50-50. And yeah, most of the hair patients are men, but I do get plenty of women who come for PRP. They're not always coming for transplants. They're coming to talk about their hair loss, do some non-surgical stuff, SMP, which is the pigmentation stuff I do, PRP with the injections. It's sometimes we just get blood work. So, because I was part of Jeff's like women's kind of hair restoration center, so it did more than just transplants. So it's it's a good mix. It's a good mix. As much as I understand some people's hesitation because it's like, oh, I want to go to the guy who's just doing facelifts all day long. I get that. I get that. But I'm kind of different in that I like to juggle somewhat related things, but that have their own merit.
Can we talk about your own hair journey? It's very
Yeah, I mean, it's straightforward. Look, what happened was I had a great head of hair. As you saw some of my photos, not that long ago, like no hair loss, like whatsoever, like, just zero signs of recession, just good genes. And, but I had areata like for 10 years, like on my legs. Little patches would come and go since like med school years. And it never bothered me because who cares? It's on your legs. And then like 3 years ago, right before I started with Jeff that summer after fellowship, before starting with him, I developed a spot right out here. And it was like quarter sized, and he injected it with steroids, and we just watched it over 9 months. It filled in. And I was like, okay, great. Like, this is awesome. And then last, I think it was January, I had what I think now to be COVID. Like, no one knew at that time, but it was like, the January before everything went crazy. And then, so that got, I recovered after like, I don't know, a week or two, just a really high fever, shortness of breath, all the kind of standard stuff. And then like I developed Bell's palsy, right side of my face. And I put that up on Instagram at that time too. My uncle was actually treating me with like almost like an acupuncture, but like laser, like a light stimulated like needle things to try to encourage whatever the nerve to start working again. So it took about 3 weeks, and then the face started working again. And then on the tail end of that, I just started to get like extreme shedding. I mean, I've never seen anything like that. Just clumps, just whole body, lost all the hair in my body over the course of, I don't know, 1 or 2 months. And it was insane. I mean, there was the emotional kind of toll. There was the like, I'm this young hair transplant surgeon without hair. Like, how does that make sense? Like, are people going to come to me? There was all these, doubts. I couldn't even now. I mean, now I'm a little more used to it. It's been a little while, almost a year, but it was like, I'd look at myself in the mirror, like didn't recognize myself, like no eyebrows, no nothing. It was like so weird. I got these glasses. I don't have vision problems. It's just kind of mask, the aesthetic a little bit. I'm not going to go for micro blading. I don't think it looks great. I just haven't. And then you don't have eyelashes, so it's like people are still going to ask questions. So that was interesting. And I'm like, let me just talk about my experience and try to educate people about the condition. I reached out to a high school friend of, like, he was like an acquaintance in high school, all throughout like elementary, middle school, high school. And he always wore a hat. And I remember seeing him a couple of times, and he was bald. And we were like, why is Brad bald? Like no one really knew. But he was bald. And now like it all makes sense to me. So I reached out to him on Facebook, and I was like, dude, I get it. I get what you've been going through like this whole time. And we shared some nice stories and laughs, and he's doing great. He's like got a family and out on Long Island. And so, yeah, so that was interesting and tough, but the story kind of gets sadder in a way. I would say kind of happy-ish ending, even though there's no ending. But what happened was about 6 months ago, my wife got diagnosed with CML, a type of leukemia. Out of the blue, we were pregnant with like our, like we have a kid, so we're pregnant again. And 9 weeks, she goes to get her routine blood work, comes back with a white count of 150, and they're like, there's must have been a lab error. They invite her back to the lab, they redo it, same thing. She was really short of breath, and we were like, oh, because you're pregnant or whatever. But yeah, the problem was she had leukemia. So that was crazy. And so we were at Cornell for a week. They did all these tests, bone marrow biopsy, DNC, got to get rid of the kid because like, how are you going to get treatment? It was like terrible. I mean, it was like that was the most difficult thing. So I quickly kind of forgot about my issues and I was like, all right, this is like not bad. I mean, this is not life threatening. My wife's dealing with something much worse now. So, whatever, she's doing great. She's on a pill that's like lowering her mutation levels in her blood, and she's doing great actually. And we may even be able to have another kid one day if she continues to do awesome. But through IVF, but that's a whole other story. So, but yeah, but I mean, and our baby has been like, she's not even 2 yet. So yeah, so I've been like watching her grow in front of my eyes, and I had some time off during COVID, which was great. And it's just been such a blessing, and to have my wife be healthy again. I mean, it's just so like, honestly, I'm like who cares about my hair? I feel the biggest thing actually, Catherine, was my nails were getting brittle. And that freaked me out because I was like, because it's the same condition, it could make the nails change. That's what made me want to do something systemic as far as therapy. But I didn't want to do JAK inhibitors, which is like a pretty powerful immunosuppressive. And especially with COVID around, I was like, I'm not doing that. I don't want to increase my risk of infections and all this junk. So I didn't do that. But I did enlist the help of like a family friend who's an immunologist. And I was always allergic to a lot of things, but never too symptomatic. But I read some articles and thought it would make sense, even though it hasn't been thoroughly studied. But we initiated allergy shots, like just immunotherapy for environmental allergens. But I mean, that has really helped my nails. This has been about 8 or 9 months ago. Every week I go and they give me shots and they increase the dose. My nails are amazing, back to normal. The hair, there's some stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
It's better. It's better. I mean, I had nothing for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I don't know, it's kind of getting better. And honestly, I just care about the nails. If they stay strong and I can keep working, I don't care. The hair has just become like an interesting story. My hair patients love it. Like they're like, this is like so cool. Like, you know. Yeah, some of my YouTube videos, I'll do them without my cap. And you always get the people who are like, and if it's a hair video, they're like, who is this guy talking about hair? He should fix his own hair, but it's fine. Like, I just remind them to watch my other videos, to just get educated. And I'm going to continue to kind of educate the public about it. So it's been interesting.
Gosh, that's a lot going on. Holy cow.
There's a lot of stuff, people's lives are complex,
Holy cow. Well, then let's talk about, I guess, what's driving you. Maybe that's why have you always been this mellow? Because you definitely have a nice, whatever's happening is happening. And
always mellow.
Grateful. You've always been like that?
Yeah. I mean, I get worked up like, in the OR if something's not going right. I usually also manage to stay pretty calm, but sometimes, you just feel that anxiety and like, or if someone's not helping me properly in the OR, if they're trying, I work with them. But if I feel like, and I don't really work with those people anymore, but, when you're starting out and you're trying to figure out who you want to work with, I don't tolerate any of that, because to me, like, the patient is like number one, and everyone's got to be working in that same way. And so that I'll lash out at someone for that. But in general, or if I feel like someone's just being super unfair to me or to, a family member or just another human being, I'll get angry. But yeah, generally mellow and calm. And, I think that's the best way to just do things and make decisions.
And are you like, do you live in the attitude of gratitude, or because I'm so darn hyper and everything's, life threatening for me. Like I'm very overreactive, and I've been working on that for decades. But then again, I'm also enthusiastic. So, it's like the pros and cons. Like my enthusiasm is not always wanted or tolerated. So, you're always trying to regulate, aren't you? Like
Yeah,
balance.
always but I try to stay as even keel as possible. There's certain things that happen during every day is a roller coaster, right? Like I'll get an email like, oh, like they included you in like a GQ article. And I'm like, oh, that's fantastic. I'm so glad. Next thing you know, like I have a patient emailing me like unhappy with their scar. And then the next thing is like, my daughter has a rash on her face. Like it's just there's just constant up and down. And so I guess for my well-being, and it's always been that way. I mean, now it's like maybe things are amplified because, I don't know, they just arc with everything, like the having your own practice and having a kid, and it's just living in this crazy city. I mean, things are just amplified. But even back in the day, even being in school and like you get one grade that you love, another one that isn't as great. There's just always stuff in our lives, and so I guess it comes natural, but I've just managed to always stay, I mean, it doesn't mean I don't get excited or sad or annoyed or anxious or whatever, but I try to kind of regulate that and keep it pretty even.
Are you reading anything or meditating, or how do you
No.
keep your drive up with all the ups and downs of life? How are
I
you?
truly don't like, I mean, I'd love to do more reading. I really just read like our journals, to just stay updated on the latest for hair and for facial plastics. And I do writing, of course, both, scientific articles, but also like, I do writing through the PR people. And then I spend a lot of my free time now, uh, doing YouTube and filming for YouTube and all of that. So there's not that, sorry, my daughter is getting changed here in the room. But there's not a lot of time in addition to that to like, I don't know, pick up a novel. Maybe that's also not where my, interests are. And I just keep focused on like building the practice and spending time with family when I'm not working. And then meditation, I never really was that interested in it. I feel like I don't know, like I feel like I have a pretty good sense of calmness, like internally, naturally. So I don't feel like I need that. I feel like surgeries for me are meditative. They really are. I mean, yeah, sometimes you're just, too worried about something or whatever. But most of the time when I'm working, it's like you're so zoned in that like that to me is kind of meditation. I don't worry about the marketing. I don't worry about the business in those moments. I don't even always worry about like I worry about the patient's outcome, but I'm really just focused on the steps of the surgery, and that is meditative. I used to like to paint and draw and all these things. I don't really, at least at this point, find time for them. I'm sure I will pick it back up when we move into a house. I can build out a little area, but we're like in a one bedroom now, so it's not really
Tell
conducive
you
to
what,
that.
that's a really good differentiator. If you can, I know surgeons who show off their artistic side on their websites, on YouTube, on all of that. I think it's really helpful because it shows that you have more of an artistic eye than somebody who doesn't have that kind of skill. So I use everything you have if you've got
True. I just,
one.
between like, yeah, I mean, my true focus now, especially this is probably the most pertinent thing because I know I've gone on tangents here, but as far as like, business is concerned and what other surgeons can maybe take from this, I mean, I'm putting a lot of my time into YouTube.
Mhm.
Um, my thinking is when everyone's doing X, I want to be doing Y. I want to be doing some of X, but I want to be doing a lot more of Y. And because if you're just doing what everyone else is doing, you're not going to really differentiate. It's hard to do the same thing they're doing, but on a higher level because it's going to be a lot more costly usually. So yeah, Instagram is great, and I have a team who manages that because I realized I was so disinterested in posting and taking time away from family, and I just don't love the platform honestly because I'm more into like education and that sort of thing. I'm not really into like, let me make a stupid dance and tell you about a 15% off discount that we have. It's not me. I like to educate and I just couldn't really, I was like, why don't I like Instagram? Everyone else likes it. And I'm like, it's just not a great platform for educating. It's just like, you're only as good as your last post. Things aren't as searchable as they should be. It's just not, it's very quick, flashy things. So for that reason, and because YouTube has a lot of potential for for marketing, huge reach. I mean, bigger than Instagram. It just maybe isn't where as many people are at now looking for plastic surgery, but there are plenty of people on there, and more people finding my videos and calling us for that reason. Like we ask them, how'd you find us? A lot of them now are coming from YouTube. There are more, when you look at the demographics of people who follow me on Instagram versus YouTube. YouTube has, like, I forgot percentage wise, but many more men, like, I don't know, 75% men. And Instagram has like 75% women.
That makes sense.
So yes, I'm getting more of my hair inquiries from YouTube. And I think that's probably why. But yeah, no, plenty of like women are commenting, especially when it's like lip lift videos. They love it. It's educational. They're learning. And I put out like real things. Like, I mean, I talk about, real complications of surgeries that I do, things that could happen, how often do they happen. I talk about, like pretty specific technique details. I just bought a special camera for recording surgery. It's from Spain, and so I'm excited to incorporate that. And actually, one thing I was thinking from a business standpoint is creating a course more for doctors to like really learn hair, learn other stuff that I do for face, and putting it out as like a course that you pay for, just like QMP. I don't know if you're familiar with QMP. Of course. But I pay. I mean, I have people, I love certain surgeons, at least for the certain surgeries that they do. And so I'll pay to watch them operate, and I rewind and I look again, and I'm like, oh, like, I do that learning for myself. But I don't need QMP to invite me in, to do a video with them. Like, there are plenty. So I bought my own recording device with a specialized thing that attaches to headlights and loops. And
I think that's brilliant. That's almost like that Go camera that used to be popular.
Yeah, I bought the GoPro, but then it's a zoomed out kind of thing, so it's not like for focusing in for surgery. I didn't realize, honestly. I just kind of bought it. I'm like, oh, let me try it out. So I used it to film a vlog, like a day in the life thing one time, and I'm sure I'll film other stuff with it. But yeah, it just kind of sits there for now. But for surgery, you need something more, especially for like more like smaller kind of high def areas, not like I'm doing I don't know, people who do BBLs or whatever they do, like where you're just capturing like a big area. Maybe then a GoPro could work, but if you're working on these little tight areas on the face or the scalp, like you kind of need like a different type of camera.
Okay, well, thank you so much. This has been very interesting, and I had no idea. You have quite a story there, and I just wish you luck and health and success and happiness. And you have your dog, and your daughter. What else can you want?
Yeah, we're really happy. And I still work at the VA part-time. I mean, I have been given that up. So I balance things between the VA and my practice. And I don't want to. I teach at NYU through the VA system part-time, and then I'm at the Brooklyn VA doing like reconstructive cases, some bread and butter ENT still when I'm there. But I love the balance. I mean, just like helping different demographics of people who otherwise wouldn't come to like a cash-based practice, for stuff, but I'm doing their rhinoplasty, and if they want something cosmetic, we do it. And I love it. So like, yeah, I mean, things are good. So as much as I wanted my practice to grow, it's kind of like if it grows too fast, then I'll have to really give up the VA, and I don't really want to do that yet. So it's going at a good pace.
Good luck to you. And if people want to find out more about you, can they go to your website is cityfacialplastics.com?
Yeah. City Facial Plastics, or main email if they want to send an email, info@cityfp.com. And, or, just send me a DM on Instagram if you have any specific questions. Yeah, I mean, I'm always happy to help. Nowadays, it's become a little challenging with having people come in to observe in the office, but with the like, that's why I'm gonna be filming so people can watch things, and I'll be posting clips and stuff. But for full length stuff, I'll probably create like an account somewhere where we can really have like like a nice layout of different procedures if people want to learn. And
they'll have a front row view. I think that's brilliant. Good for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's going to wrap us up for Beauty and the Biz for this week. Thank you so much, Dr.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you for having me.
appreciate it. And
Thanks.
everybody, if you would be so kind as to subscribe to Beauty and the Biz and give us a good review if you feel like it. And if you want to reach out to me, I'm at catherinemaley.com, or you can certainly DM me at Catherine Maley MBA.